going to really talk about menopause from a couple of different perspectives. Certainly a lot from my own experience and also my experience of client work in the rooms, okay, over the years, okay, from a female perspective. But first of all, just wanted to sort of, on a lighter note, really, just talk about menopause as a social construction, okay? So it's just, you know, we heard about the male gaze earlier on, and I just found it fascinating that a lot of our medical words to do with our health involve men, okay? So menstrual cycle, you know, his hysterectomy, yeah? And also, obviously, menopause and gynecology. I mean, it's just, the list goes on. But, you know, it's quite interesting because what we look at really in therapy also is meaning, is language and meaning, and what we attach to meaning, okay? So really, as a social construction, where are we as middle-aged women going through menopause? What does it mean? What are we getting back from society? How have we been seen, or how have we been made to feel in the past? Certainly, it's already been mentioned, but my mother's generation, you just got on with it, you know. You don't talk about it, you just get on with it, and it's the change, you know. Oh, she's going through the change, you know, this sort of thing. So really, it's absolutely fantastic that it's coming out in general discourse, general narrative, that we can talk about it, that we've started to talk about it, and we've started to feel visible in society in general. Absolutely fantastic. So, oh, wrong way, sorry, other way. Okay, so how is it changing? Menopause is being seen very differently as we are continuing, and it's a shift towards the individual experience rather than, you know, seeing us as a group. So in psychology and psychotherapy, what we look at is what makes us the same, all right? But then what makes us individuals, and how we experience the menopause is the unique experience for each one of us, because it's going to come to us at different ages, and it's really going to depend on our life experiences and perhaps how society view us as well. So yeah, we're reclaiming and we're redefining the woman-opause, you know? I mean, you know, let's reclaim it, you know? It is being redefined, and this is what's so positive about functions like today. It really is. We have, yeah, the transformation is coming. It's coming through, it came through things like the Me Too campaign. You know, we're starting to feel heard. Not only are we in the workplace, but we're starting to feel heard and seen. And obviously, as I said before, it is in society now. It's actually starting to count, because if you think about sort of, if you pull yourself up from your life and you look at it sort of womb to tomb, okie doke, we're living longer. So really, coming into the menstrual cycle, and then, you know, it gives us a certain sort of window for childbirth, I'll call it that. And then the menopause takes us out of that transition. And really, it's just an interlude. It's a part of our lives these days, but there is life before, and guess what? There is life afterwards, you know. And that's really about seeing it in a very positive way, you know. Okay? So let's see if I can get that. Yeah, okie doke. So the main issues women talk about when they come into me personally in therapy, all right? So I have had, for instance, women who never wanted children, who are menopausal. Women who went through IVF and it failed, who are menopausal. Yeah? Women, again, like it was mentioned earlier by doctors, you know, a woman might come in and she'll say to me, you know, I've been diagnosed with anxiety, but you know, I think it might have something to do with the menopause, you know. This kind of this idea of what is anxiety, what is menopause, you know, Why am I feeling like this? You know? So really, the process of therapy has a lot to do maybe with transition, just literally going from one part of life to another, but also maybe about grieving that part of your life. Okay, now I don't mind mentioning I had a hysterectomy at the age of 45, and then I hit menopause at 55, only 10 years later, but it was difficult for me to see because obviously I didn't have any periods, you know. So really the symptoms came on a couple of years ago, and I absolutely know now that I am menopausal. But the loss of power, that loss of being able to give birth anymore, you know, it's this question about our validation, about our power, where does that come from? And really, is our, you know, validation coming from the ability to have children, you know? And if that's not there, then what happens to us psychologically, mentally, emotionally? You know, so really it's about a loss of power, maybe, to a certain extent. Denial. This is a lovely one. Somebody said it to me once, denial is not a river in Egypt, okay? No. You know, women just perhaps want to pretend this is not happening, you know? That way I can cope, you know, stick my head in the sand, it's not happening, the symptoms aren't happening. When I go to work and I get a bit of brain fog and I can't talk properly, you know, that's not happening. Well, and this might be actually compounding these feelings of slight anxiety attached to going through this transition. So the other thing that clients talk about, maybe I've experienced it slightly myself as well, is this feeling of isolation and loneliness, you know? Because in the past, we haven't really spoken to each other about this. You know, it doesn't feel like a shared experience, maybe, from the past. But it doesn't have to be like that. You know, we can talk to each other. It doesn't have to feel lonely. Even if we're in a relationship. My sister told me that she's dragging her husband through menopause along with her because she just doesn't want to feel alone. Oh, fair enough. So yeah, this feeling of isolation and loneliness, it can really hit us at this part of our lives. Okay. Yeah, so concealing the transition at work for fear of losing your job. You know, it's a real fear that people have. And so they sort of pretend it's not happening, but then that compounds the issues. And then, of course, the big one is how society has seen us in the past, and maybe we take that on board, asking ourselves where our validation really comes from, and really feeling that perhaps our relevance isn't there anymore as women, as people. You see where I'm coming from on that? So very significant, this idea of being visible and relevant, that you still got something to offer, you know, so a reason to function. So the therapeutic approaches to menopause. Okay, so really I studied CBT after my main sort of training, which was more in sort of to do with the unconscious and meaning and existentialism and everything. And I really loved it, because what CBT can do is it can actually help you to adjust your approach. Okay, so when I was studying it, really CBT is based on the old Stoics. Their philosophy, Epictetus, talked about these situations that we have no control over. But in a way, the only thing that we can do is we can adjust our own perspective on the situation. So if you imagine we are subject to our own bodies, we are subject to our life cycles, we're subject to the menopause. But what we can do through therapy, or, you know, obviously other therapeutic activities, self-care being one of them, maybe some group work, anything others, you know, being involved in groups, is to adjust the perspective on menopause, to make it more comfortable. As our keynote speaker said, loud and proud, coming out into the next phase of our lives. So CBT is a very good approach. Just looking at the cognitions, looking at the internal dialogue, what it is you're actually saying to yourself, and how that fires off perhaps a fear response in the body, or how it affects our emotions, our moods, etc. And hopefully then not, but hopefully it doesn't spill over, but how then it affects our behaviors as well. So daily mindfulness integration, again, this was talked about earlier, would highly recommend a mindful practice, a daily mindful practice of some description, be it meditation, breathing, just being with oneself, being still, and to allow the harmony to readjust in oneself during the menopause period, okay? And it's also to just bring the stress levels down, bring blood down, and the obsessive thinking, it's just to bring everything down. To seek a new meaning. So again, it's about understanding and being able to see yourself perhaps differently. That it's not about what other people and what society or the greater want you to think. It's where is your validation coming from? If it's external to you, you kind of want to a loser in a way, because you're dependent on something that is outside of your control, And how can you really know what people think anyway? Really? I mean, isn't this the last bastion of privacy in here? Yeah, until there's a chip until they stick a chip in there, it's still private. So anything, surely we're only perceiving what other people think. So the work is to bring that validation and bring it back within yourself, and to only rely on yourself for your validation. Was that good enough for me? Yeah, that was good enough for me. Okay, full stop, that's it. Not going to think about that again. So being able to see yourselves differently, exploring unconscious influences, of course, which is what we've been talking about all along. What does it actually mean to even be a woman today? I didn't change my pronouns when I was 18. No, I kind of changed my title. I didn't want to be Miss, I didn't want to be Mrs., I was neither of those things. No, I'm Ms. I'm Ms. Una Le Meur, Yes, I'm she, her, and all of that. That's all fine. But what is my unconscious influence here? How does it feel? What does it mean to me to be a woman? And what does it uniquely mean to each one of you individually to be a woman also? So in the end, it's all about strengthening your relationship with yourself. That sounds so like therapy focused, doesn't it? But it really does. Anything that you're projecting outwards, it has probably got more to do with how you feel about yourself. So that's where the work is. And connecting with others, sharing with others. We're social beings, aren't we? No man is an island, etc. Being able to talk with others, being able to share our experiences, very therapeutic. And it can soothe. It can really help to self-soothe. So really, beyond the menopause, we can be perimenopausal, we can be in the menopause, but there is life, obviously, beyond the menopause as well. What doors can we step through as menopausal women? There's all sorts of fantastic stories out there about women who start their degree when they finish the menopause. They get 10 years as a social worker or something, And, they've got their own thinking, very individualistic thinking about it. They're not going to be following anybody else's ideas or plans about their life, about what they are going to be doing in the third act, of their life. Yes, we are subject to the cycle of life. We all are. We are all subject to this. We are all subject to our own bodies and our own conditions and what it means to be in these different phases. Acceptance of where we're at. It's meeting ourselves where we're at. Somebody said this to me. recently, I found it so helpful, was that we do not go to the future, because that sort of gives the impression that there's an end to this journey that we need to sort of be on, okay? It's not us that goes to the future. No, no, no. We stand still, and the future comes to us and moves through us constantly. So so really for our own well-being, we need to just take care of ourselves while we're standing still and while this future is coming through us constantly. I thought that was very helpful. Thought I'd share that. Okay. So acceptance of where we're at, turning forward, facing, and creating goals. It's so good for our mental health to have goals, to have plans, to be forward-facing, to have one eye on the future. It's just really good for our mental health, not to be living in the past, but to be able to face forward. Jung said, we are not the sum total of our experiences. We are who we wish to become. Okay, so there is future. There is a future. There's always a future. So to live in a mindful way, live in the present moment, to create purpose for ourselves. There's a whole story there, which I'm not sure I'm going to go into. When we get to this part of our lives, life stops feeding us. You know, I've spoken to this with many clients. We get to this middle age, and then it's like, okay, what's next? You know, there's the open sea. There's no babies to have anymore. There's no career to have anymore. You know, relationships, okay, that's been done and dusted. House is on its way. Children in college, if I've had children, all, etc., etc., etc. You get to this point, menopause, maybe beyond. Okay, what next? Nothing. Oh yeah, okay. So I have to start working on myself because I have to carve out my own purpose from this point on. And sometimes a lot of the work in therapy is done around just that, figuring out what people want. Because once you know what you want, it's just a question of executing the plan to get it. That's the easy bit. So here we are. Here are the takeaways. Therapy is a way to transition through menopause, either one-on-one or perhaps more helpfully through group therapy, because it's a shared experience. This is what's the same about all of us in this room. We're all women, and it's a complete positive inevitability that we will go through the menopause. Okay? And so, yeah, it can be a shared experience, and to connect with each other and live life to the fullest in every part of our lives, including that wonderful third act. And I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.